were pretty annoying for a little bit, but
Why?
it was really sweet when you told me that you allow me to be friends with your family.
From Ithaca, New York, wants to know if you think you would have a shot with Kourtney if you had maintained your sobriety.
Yes.
Do you?
Yeah, probably.
I go back to Scott Disick. Travis is not perfect for me. He is cheating on me. I have always had feelings for Scott, which is why I am now getting a divorce from Travis Barker.
So where's your head at with Court?
Honestly, I think for like the first time probably in my life, it's finally starting to change.
Scott Disick has finally said what he's been holding back for years. And it's shaken the narrative people thought they understood about Kourtney Kardashian and Travis Barker. For a long time, Scott watched quietly from the sidelines as Kourtney's relationship with Travis unfolded like a picture-perfect love story. To the world, it looked untouchable, passionate, intense, almost cinematic. But according to Scott, what people saw wasn't the full reality. Kourtney and Travis quickly became one of pop culture's most talked-about couples. The constant PDA, the grand romantic gestures, the extravagant weddings, it all painted the image of a modern-day fairy tale. From that rose-covered beach proposal to multiple lavish ceremonies, it felt like Kourtney had finally found her forever. But the truth, it didn't start as a fairy tale. They were neighbors first, friends for years. Then suddenly, in early 2021, everything shifted. What followed was fast, almost too fast. Within weeks, they went public. Soon after, Travis was deeply involved in Kourtney's family, bonding with her kids, while Scott, behind the scenes, was quietly struggling with where he fit in anymore. And then came the turning point, the proposal. A moment so grand it felt scripted. But Scott now suggests that even back then, cracks were already forming beneath the surface. What if everything you thought you knew about Kourtney Kardashian and Travis Barker wasn't the full story? For years, the world watched their relationship unfold like a real-life fairy tale. The kind people screenshot, repost, and call couple goals. Roses covering entire beaches. Passion so intense it practically jumped through the screen. Multiple weddings that felt more like movie scenes than real life. And a love story that seemed, at least on the surface, completely unbreakable. But now, that image is starting to crack. Because Scott Disick, the man who knows Kourtney better than almost anyone, has finally broken his silence. And what he's hinting at, it's not just surprising, it's unsettling. For a long time, Scott stayed quiet, watching, processing, trying to move on while the world celebrated Kourtney's new life. But behind that silence, there were emotions he never fully expressed, questions he never answered, and truths he may have been holding back. Until now. Because according to Scott, what the world saw, the passion, the perfection, the forever energy, might not be the reality behind closed doors. And the most shocking part, even Kourtney herself has admitted that things aren't as smooth as they look. Different personalities, different lifestyles, constant effort just to stay aligned. So now fans are asking the question no one wanted to say out loud. Was Travis ever the perfect love story we believed in? Or was it something much more complicated, hidden behind filters, fame, and fantasy? Because once you start looking closer, the cracks aren't just rumors anymore. They're impossible to ignore. To understand what's really going on, you have to go back to the beginning, before the headlines, before the weddings, before the world became obsessed. Kourtney Kardashian and Travis Barker didn't start as some whirlwind romance. They were neighbors in Calabasas, friends, comfortable, familiar. For years, their connection was quiet, almost invisible to the public eye. But then something shifted. In early 2021, rumors started swirling. Subtle at first, then louder. And within weeks, they confirmed it themselves with a single photo, hands intertwined, simple but powerful. That image alone sent the internet into a frenzy. From that moment on, everything accelerated. Their relationship didn't build slowly, it exploded. Travis wasn't just dating Kourtney. He became fully integrated into her world almost instantly. He bonded with her children. He showed up everywhere. He embraced the Kardashian lifestyle in a way that felt intense, almost overwhelming. And while fans celebrated, Scott Disick was left watching it all unfold from the outside. For someone who had spent years with Kourtney, building a family, sharing a life, that shift wasn't just emotional, it was disorienting. Scott later admitted something deeply revealing. He never truly got over her. He called her the love of his life. But at the same time, he felt pushed out, replaced not just as a partner, but as part of the family dynamic he once belonged to. And that emotional tension, it didn't just disappear. It lingered. Then came October 2021, the proposal that defined their relationship. A beach covered in roses, candles flickering against the ocean, a scene so perfect it almost didn't feel real. To the world, it was magical. But now, Scott suggests something very different, that even in those moments, things weren't as perfect as they seemed. Because behind every grand gesture, there may have been underlying differences already starting to surface. And those differences, they go much deeper than people realize. Kourtney has openly said she wants a slower, more grounded life. After years of filming, chaos, and constant attention, she craves peace, stability, time with her family away from the noise. Travis, on the other hand, lives at full speed. He thrives on movement, energy, spontaneity, touring, traveling, constantly doing something new. His lifestyle is intense, fast, and unpredictable. At first, those differences might have felt exciting, like opposites attracting. But over time, opposites don't just attract. They clash. Kourtney admitted she often finds herself trying to keep up with Travis while also wanting to slow everything down. That balancing act, it's not easy, and it's not always successful. And suddenly, Scott's perspective starts to make more sense. Because what looks like passion from the outside can sometimes be pressure on the inside. Then there's Travis's past, a factor that continues to resurface no matter how much time passes. Long before Kourtney, Travis had a history of complicated relationships. His marriage to Shanna Moakler was turbulent, filled with public drama, accusations, and emotional fallout. He admitted himself that loyalty wasn't always his strength in the past. And while people can change, history has a way of lingering. Rumors, allegations, old stories, they don't just disappear, they wait, and eventually they resurface. One of the most uncomfortable parts. Travis once admitted he had a crush on Kim Kardashian, Kourtney's own sister. To outsiders, it might seem like harmless honesty, but within the dynamics of that family, it's anything but simple. Because Kourtney and Kim's relationship has always been complicated, competitive at times, emotional, layered with years of tension. So when that information came back into the spotlight, it didn't just stay in the past. It became part of the present. And suddenly, the perfect family image started to feel strained. Fans began noticing subtle things. Small moments, slight disconnects, energy shifts that didn't align with the overly polished image on social media. Eyewitnesses even claimed that in unfiltered settings, things didn't always feel as harmonious as they looked online. Travis, sometimes intense. Kourtney, sometimes distant. Not dramatic, not explosive, but enough to make people wonder. Because perfection doesn't usually have cracks. But this did. And then there's the role of fame itself. Living under constant public scrutiny doesn't just highlight problems, it amplifies them. Every disagreement becomes speculation. Every expression gets analyzed. Every past mistake gets dragged back into the spotlight. Kourtney has admitted that stepping away from constant filming changed her perspective completely. It forced her to reassess what truly matters. But at the same time, she's still part of a world where privacy is limited and everything becomes content. And that contradiction, it's exhausting. Scott, interestingly, acknowledged this too. He admitted that fame is both a blessing and a burden, that it gives opportunities, but also takes something away. And maybe that's where everything starts to unravel. Because when you combine two completely different personalities, a history that refuses to stay buried, family dynamics that are already complicated, and a level of fame that magnifies everything, you don't get a fairy tale. You get pressure, and pressure reveals everything. That's why Scott's comments hit so differently now. At first, they sounded like jealousy, like someone struggling to move on. But now, they sound like insight. Because he wasn't just watching as an outsider. He was watching as someone who understood Kourtney on a deeper level than most people ever could. And when he says things weren't as perfect as they seemed, people are starting to listen. He admits something that hits harder than anything else. He never really got over Kourtney. He calls her the love of his life, but also confesses that no matter what he did, it felt like it was never enough. No appreciation, no way back in, just distance growing wider with time. And now, looking at Kourtney and Travis from the outside, Scott claims the relationship people idolized may not be as flawless as it seemed. Behind the polished Instagram posts and red carpet moments, he hints at tension, clashing personalities, unresolved issues, and differences that were there from the very beginning. Even Kourtney herself has admitted things aren't always easy. She's someone who craves calm, stability, and a slower pace of life. Travis, on the other hand, thrives on chaos, movement, and constant stimulation. One wants peace, the other wants intensity, and somewhere in between, balance becomes a daily challenge. Suddenly, Scott's words don't sound bitter, they sound observant. Because when you strip away the spectacle, the weddings, the PDA, the headlines, you're left with two very different people trying to make it work under relentless public pressure. And that pressure only magnifies everything. There are whispers of old baggage resurfacing, rumors tied to Travis's past, tension within the blended family, moments where things don't quite match the perfect couple image fans were sold. Even longtime supporters have started noticing it, the subtle disconnect between how things look and how they feel. Scott, meanwhile, has reached a painful kind of closure. Watching Kourtney move on forced him to finally let go, even if it meant losing his place in the family he once felt part of. What hurts him most isn't just losing her, it's feeling like he's been quietly erased. And now, with speculation swirling and fans divided, one question keeps resurfacing. Was Kourtney and Travis's love story ever as solid as it seemed? Or was it always something more fragile, hidden behind a perfectly curated illusion? Because in the end, beneath all the glamour and attention, this isn't just a story about romance. It's about timing, about unresolved pasts, about two completely different worlds trying to collide and survive in the harshest spotlight imaginable. And maybe the biggest question of all still lingers. When the cameras fade and the noise dies down, what's actually left? So now the question isn't just about Kourtney and Travis anymore. It's about perception. How much of what we see, especially when it comes to celebrity relationships, is actually real? And how much of it is carefully curated to look perfect? Because Travis didn't just become a couple, they became a symbol. A symbol of passion, of second chances, of finding love later in life and going all in without hesitation. But symbols aren't always reality. And reality is messy. It's complicated. It's full of contradictions. It doesn't fit neatly into Instagram posts or red carpet moments. And maybe that's what we're seeing now. The difference between the image and the truth slowly coming into focus. Scott Disick's words didn't just shake fans because of what he said. They shook people because of what they implied. That even the most perfect love story might have been struggling behind the scenes. That even the most passionate relationships can have deep incompatibilities. That sometimes, what looks like a fairy tale is actually something much more fragile. But here, where it gets even more interesting. Despite everything, despite the rumors, the tension, the differences, Kourtney and Travis are still together. Still trying, still navigating, still choosing each other. And that raises a different kind of question. Maybe the story isn't about perfection at all. Maybe it's about whether two people, completely different in every way, can actually make it work. Or whether eventually, those differences become too much. So what do you think? Was this relationship always stronger than people give it credit for? Or were the cracks there from the very beginning, just hidden behind the spotlight? Because one thing is clear, the fairy tale version of this story, that's no longer the only version people are seeing. And once that illusion breaks, there's no going back.